top of the world, about to jump above it. Take it straight to the moon, 'cause we know how to rock it. Ain't no thing you can do, ain't no way to stop it. Now you're feeling it too, let's get it started. Throw your hands in the air while the beat is dropping. Acting like you don't care when everybody's watching. Just keep whipping your hair like that, you got it. Yeah, you're feeling it too, let's get it started. I'm ready, ready. Let's get it, get it. I'm ready, ready. Are you ready, ready? Let's get it started. Charts off the meter, turn it up, blow the speakers, make them more to believers. Break through the surface, tell them open the curtains, give them all what they wanted. Yeah, now let's get started. Let's get it, get it. Yeah, I'm ready, ready. I'm ready. Are you ready, ready? I'm ready. Let's get it started.
Live from virtual Daytona International Speedway, we welcome race fans one and all to the World Center of Racing for round number 1 of the North American Sim Racing Association for the Serve Pro 200. My name is Noel Rempel, and I have got John Mostian Jr. beside me in the commentary box with, of course, the one and only Cody Wooten down behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. So, John, we enter yet another new season for NASRA, and it is going to be a thrilling one, right? You've got a long season ahead of us, and with these brand new next-gen cars getting set to see what we can do, it should be a thrilling race for us here tonight.
Absolutely. I love these next-gen cars, to be honest with you. They're one of my favorites to drive. I know that's probably going to change a lot between now and, say, February when they get the actual specs from NASCAR and get a chance to scan the actual car itself again. But in the meantime, this is what we've got in Nolan. It's a blast to drive, and most certainly a blast to throw around racetracks.
Oh, it absolutely is, and that should mean we're in for one heck of a race tonight. 80 laps getting set to trundle away from us here tonight from the World Center of Racing around this 2.5-mile speedway. That, of course, comes after 2 laps of qualifying, and it is a chilly track out there at the moment at Daytona International Raceway. We may be in Florida, but it is still 77 degrees Fahrenheit down on the track surface with 75 degrees Fahrenheit in the air. Some pretty strong winds, though. You take a look at the bottom right, 13 miles an hour of wind at the moment. That's blowing just off to the northeast, so these drivers could be dealing with a little bit of crosswinds coming around through these corners here tonight. And you never know, that could play a big factor to how this race plays out, especially in the early going.
Oh, and man, you know, the wind, we've seen it before, has reached out and just touched cars coming off a turn, loosen them up, and all kinds of melee ensue. But I'm liking that. I'm liking that cool track, Tim. I'm gonna tell you why. More grip equals more speed, and well, speed's always fun at Daytona, right?
Oh, it absolutely is, and you mentioned how crucial that wind will be as well, just being able to push a car around. I mean, it is worth noting that these cars are not the lightest of machines, right? Hovering right around 3,600 pounds. But that 12 miles an hour wind, when you're racing at 180 plus miles an hour, it will just pick that car up and around. We've seen it in the past, and we no doubt could be seeing it here tonight as well. So you got yourselves about 23 drivers at the moment getting set to duke it out for 80 laps around Daytona. practice just has a couple of minutes left in before we throw things over to a 10-minute 2-lap qualifying session where each driver will have 2 laps to put their times down and try to see if they can get themselves on the front row tonight. Now, for the Gen 6 cars, we haven't seen it in the past, right? It's been very single file, a lot more processional as a result of all the new aerodynamic packages that have been put into that Gen 6 cars. For these Gen 7 cars, though, we were discussed this before. It's one of the first times you or I have actually been seeing these cars in action here, John. So who knows what's in store for us here tonight?
Honestly, actually, Nolan, I've seen a couple of these the next gen cars at Daytona in a different league, and it's gonna be, how should I put this gently? Story, but different because this car has so much more grip and traction control. Oh, traction control is a bad word, but because of the contact patch this car has, these guys are going to have a lot more confidence and I guess ability and nerve to throw that car down into the turn later in the stage of the run. If it goes green for a while, versus what the Gen 6 car. After a while, that back end was light, no fuel in it. You were very, very worried about losing control if you put too much input into the wheel. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a bit of sense, and we'll no doubt be seeing that in process here tonight as well. Of course, this could mean that qualifying could be absolutely critical for how this race plays out tonight. It is definitely not the easiest of tracks to race on. You need to be a lot more careful around this track. You need to definitely have those fellows that you're going to want to work with for tonight as well. And, of course, if you end up messing it up big time, right, and losing the draft, you have nothing to worry about because you're going to have yourself 3 total stages on the night with competition cautions at laps 15 and 30. So this means it could be a bit of a crucial situation for drivers if they want to try to get themselves sorted with those last-minute adjustments. You could utilize those stage cautions and try to gamble with something, make those little adjustments under the caution periods for getting yourself back out there for the night. And, of course, that does mean you're going to have an extra 20 points total on the line if you win both stages.
Oh, yeah, and points are always an utmost importance in these seasons where you have long races. And, I mean, who knows what could happen? You could wind up wrecking out of a race or maybe not making the race at all for whatever reason. So stage points will help you along with that and missing missing time there on the track. And, something I should have brought up earlier, but I was a participant in a next-gen car race at Daytona, and I did not realize there were 5 speeds in these cars. I'm used to the typical 4-speed transmissions in the old Gen 6 car. And let me tell you, it gets your attention when all of a sudden you're bouncing off the rev limiter and you haven't even made a full lap yet.
Oh, absolutely. That 5th gear is definitely going to be a bit more crucial for some of these drivers out there tonight. So qualifying now underway here at Daytona International Speedway. You look up to Max Steck at the moment in his 05 Chevrolet Camaro running around the track. He is the first driver that wants to take that thing to the track. Right behind him is, of course, Chris Stevenson, his number 14 as well. So you got yourself more and more drivers going to be opting to take those times. You really have 2 different strategies in qualifying at Daytona, right? If you want to try to get yourself up at the front of this thing, that could work out for you. You have some clarity you can work with. Of course, you're going to have to be more one of those guys going to be wanting to pull the rest of the field around you. It's also worth noting that when you go out there to run around at the front of this field, you're a lot less likely to get collected in some of the messes that could happen further in the back. Or alternatively, you don't qualify at all. Just run around at the back of the pack and let everybody take themselves out in front of you.
Yeah, and there's also I've seen guys incorporate, Nolan, and that is they qualify as well as they can, hoping to get somewhere up inside the top 10 in qualifying. And then at the start of the race, they'll just pull over at the back stretch and fall to the back and ride along. They do that because they want a really good pit box for in case they have green flag pit stops or something like that. They don't want to have where you come in and, your pit lane there. So the further down pit road they are, easier it is for them to get in and get out without making any mistakes.
And at the moment, first times coming across, Max Stack has set the benchmark with a 48.578 at the moment. Chris Stevens is about 3/10 off of his current fastest time. You look up to Torrey Thompson and his number 88 machine coming around through turn 4 now, and he'll be seeing if he can potentially put down a time coming to the close of his first qualifying lap at the moment. Is it good enough for first? 48.659. Not good enough for pole, but good enough to put himself on the front row. But only 3 times have been set so far, so with about 20 more drivers, no doubt wanted to see if they can put themselves up in first place. The possibility for that positioning to change around is definitely still present.
Oh, absolutely. In this next gen car, usually the money lap is the second lap, which is the same with the next Gen 6 car, excuse me. Again, it depends on how well you run that line. There's just, the fixed setup league like this is, there is no margin for error at all, because the times are going to be right on top of each other.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to see as...
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you can see as well that the track surface is, of course, quite different now in comparison to what it was before this 2022 build. Of course, iRacing doing a complete overhaul on a lot of their tracks, most notably Watkins Glen getting the complete rescan. Looks like there have been some adjustments in the grooves. You see that black line right underneath the dotted white line up towards the outside lane, showing some of the wear and tear that the pavement has. That was not present when this track was first released back in 2011. So you wonder if potentially those little grooves, because we know iRacing scans everything, you wonder if those could potentially have a big say in how these cars handle, especially on that top lane.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. This track is also notorious for being extremely loose on exit. When you come off of 2 and especially like off 4, the car's back end wants to unload, and that run when there's no fuel in it to keep it down on the track. That's something else I have to keep a lookout for. Track rubber buildup on that high line, and then if they manage to get a good long green flag run in, watching them probably doing a little wiggling and chasing the car on exit of the turns.
Coming to halfway down in this 10-minute session for 2 laps in qualifying. 8 times have been set so far. At the moment, it is Raul Meza up at the top of the boards of the 48.440. He just came to the close of his second lap, and it was a 5.57, so not able to improve on his second time. 0.03 of a second back. You've got one Chris Stevens in his number 14 machine, second place for the front row. Slowest of these times, currently set by Eric Zimmerman with 42. That is all the way down in 10th place. And as I say that, he's going to go third, fastest, logging down his second lap, and just 1,000th away from breaking into the front row of 48.471 to Stevens' 470.
That's a tough, and that's what I was referring to earlier with the especially in qualifying. I mean, that's just going to be so close in their speeds. I'm really impressed with that 5.6 that Meza put in there. What on earth was that?
And Judd Danielson going to go second fastest now on the boards. He will log down a 48.440. How about that? Tying Raul Meza for first place on the boards. David Duke now going to go to the top with the number 78 Chevrolet, a 48.427, virtually shattering the times here at Daytona. Not much of any track, but at Daytona, that may as well be a lifetime.
It might as well. That's a very impressive run by David Duke right there to start off his qualifying lap that well. Man, that's going to be tough to beat, I do believe.
It'll be a tough one to beat, and everybody's going to have to do whatever they can to try to get those times down. I'm watching Saucier at the moment, the number 3 Chevrolet at the moment, sitting 14th place. And coming around through turns 3 and 4. The first lap often slower. Drivers will tend to run that top lane to build up the speed. Now trying to see if he can potentially punch through at least into the top 5 for the number 3. Onto the apron. 48.561. Not even good enough for the top 10.
Wow. That how are you seeing this, Nolan? Because I'm not seeing anything at all on my screen. Oh, okay. My apologies. I'm
It's
having some internet issues myself over here, and things keep hitching up on me.
see still having some drivers trying to set times. Rhett Tucker's gonna go to the top of the boards. The number 99 Mustang with a 48.326, knocking down David Duke's time by just over a tenth of a second. You talk about Duke's time being a tough one to beat. Rhett Tucker immediately going to clear the bar and raise it a couple of feet as well. Justin Michael as well going to go seventh fast with a 48.475.
Some very impressive times right there, Nolan. That 3-3, I'm like you. I didn't think anybody would be able to top David Duke off, but wow, that's almost a full. Well, that is a full tenth faster than Duke put down on his lap. So, somebody out there is teaching these boys how to get around the track.
And you still have some drivers that are looking to get those times in at the buzzer. Jeremy Crandall in the number 73 Chevy is currently running his way around the racetrack as well, looking to see if he can potentially log down a time. He's currently 16th. You see him slowest of the drivers so far, 4/10 off of Max Stack. But, of course, that is on his first lap where he was running the outside line. And now he's going to be looking to try to power his way down on the bottom side and going to see if he can maybe try to take another position away up the field. 48.531, not going to be too higher up. 12th place will be good enough for the 73 car, and that's what he's going to have to settle with for the qualifying session.
That's not a bad lap, though. I mean, it's going to put him close to the top 10. Unfortunately, in this case, that'll be mid-pack, which is I hate starting mid-pack in any super speedway track. Daytona, California, Michigan, Talladega. If I cannot be up front, I'm just going to fall to the back and ride around because there's just too much craziness as far as I'm concerned right there in the mid-pack.
There's only one more driver trying to get a time down, and that is going to be Victor Bartlett in the number 25 Chevy, but he is not going to be able to get around in time to log a lap. He's just exiting the pit road on this out lap now. 50 seconds under that now in qualifying. You're not getting around to start finish fast enough.
Oh, to get one lap in, one counted lap, you need about a minute 50 on the clock, and he's not going to be able to get that. So, yeah, that's that's too bad. But hey, look on the bright side. At least he'll be starting in the back and can avoid, like you said earlier, all the mayhem that usually happens at a speedway track.
And so with 5 seconds left in qualifying, checkered flag will fly. 16 drivers out of the 24 that have registered going to be setting times. Let's go run down for your starting grid here for the Serve Pro 200 for round number 1 of the North American Sim Racing Association here at the World Center of Racing at the Daytona International Speedway. It's Rhett Tucker on pole position. David Duke lines up beside him on the front row. Raul Meza is going to be on row number 2, down in 3rd place with Judd Danielson bringing up the tail in 4th. Chris Stevens starts 5th on row number 3 with Eric Zimmerman down in 6th. It's Justin Michael in 7th with Andrew McGronigal, down in 8th place. Tori Thompson is... And, well, John, it's going to be Stephen Llewellyn rounding out your top 10.
Coming in 11th, Adam Newberg. Jeremy Crandall, 73. And in 13th, row 7, Derek Kilgore to his outside, Corey Saucier in 3 car. Row 8 sees Jose Luis Rivera in the 97 car with Max Steck in the 05. Max was one of the first ones to go out and dropped all the way down there. Jack Roll in the 9 car in row 9. His outside, Victor Bartlett in the 25. And in row 10, we've got Nicholas Sacco in the 29 car and Ryan Ducombe in the 55.
Row 11 will hold Nathan Mann down in 21st place. 20 seconds will hold the 01 car, Hunter Parsons. Bring it up, Nathan Rose, as well as Blake Locken in 23rd and 24th to round out your 24-car grid here today for the Daytona International Speedway. So 24 drivers, 12 rows. We get set to go at it all over again for round number 1 of the North American Sim Racing Association. Your Serve Pro 200 about to get underway. Just waiting on the final few drivers to grid on up. A few seconds remaining into qualifying. I have to tell you, I am really excited, John, to see what this first race is going to hold for us.
Oh, absolutely, man. I love, don't get me wrong, I love watching super speedway racing. I just don't like being in it, man. I'm not a fan of play track racing. But let's talk about that sponsor, the Surf Pro folks. Man, they've done a lot of work. I live down here in, if you're aware of that or not, but those guys have worked miracles down here in the past couple of years between the hurricanes we've had, the flooding we've had. It's just astounding the work they do. So it's good to see them be a part of our racing service these days.
Oh, absolutely. They are, of course, if you're not aware of them, they're a franchise that are fire and water cleanup along with the restoration franchises. They work in the United States as well as Canada, and they provide localized services as well as large-scale disaster recovery. They are, of course, located all the way in Gelatin, Tennessee. If you want to know more about ServPro and what services they can offer, what they can do for you, take a look over at their website at www.servpro.com. No doubt, proud sponsors for round number one of the North American Sim Racing Association here for the Daytona International Speedway. So the ServPro 200 about to get underway, and got a lot of newer names we're talking about that's coming onto the grid today that you and I aren't terribly familiar with here at the moment, John. And of course, new faces means new styles of racing as well, and this could prove to be quite the entertaining show coming up for us.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we've been, LSRTV's been a part of another league that was trying out these cars for a few races to get ready for the 2022 season as well. And talking to a lot of those guys, this thing is a blast to drive, but it's also kind of a handful. You really, nobody really knows what this car's going to do from one track to the next. So I'm looking forward to this, looking forward to seeing how these guys handle the car, and then maybe talking to them afterwards to get their reactions on how the car drove.
And so coming around through turn 4, leave it in the hands of Rhett Tucker once that pace car pulls off. Thank you for joining us on a beautiful Tuesday night. And from the world center of racing, let's get this show started. Green flag waves, and Rhett Tucker leads them to green. We're underway for the 2022 season of the North American Sim Racing Association.
Somebody up there in 6th place did not get a very good start there, Nolan, and he bottlenecked up everybody on that outside line right there.
And that was Eric Zimmerman that ended up having that serious fallback deeper in the field. He dropped back, missed a shift or two, so he finds himself well down the order. The outside line not being able to sort itself out at all. David Duke just tucks in line with Torrey Thompson. Thompson trying to get that side draft off of Judd Danielson. The 85 car with no help is going to have to find some way to tuck down to that inside line. And apologies as well for some of the more visual glitches that you might be seeing out there on your screens. Of course, AWS having a bit of their own server issues earlier today, and they're still working some of those technical difficulties out. So hopefully it will just be a temporary issue that we'll be working with over the course of just this night, and we'll be getting things back up and running as they should in just a short while. Danielson still falling back down the order in the racer number 85 Chevrolet, and I have to wonder, is this more of a tactical advantage, right? He could have tucked in line with Stefan Llewellyn if he wanted to further up the field. Instead, he's almost lost touch of the front group.
Yeah, it may be a calculated maneuver. I mean, we just touched on it. We're having internet issues here. I know they're having it on the servers and iRacing service. And generally speaking, Nolan, I'm sure you've experienced this yourself. When you see a lot of server issues going on, you really want to give some distance to yourself and the cars around you. So these guys are going to go single file for a little while. Just kind of relax and see if this internet issue is going to fix itself, maybe smooth out a little bit for them. It's kind of nerve-wracking, when you're just tooling along at 195 miles an hour and all of a sudden everybody around you disappears for about 2 seconds. It could be kind of nerve-wracking.
At the moment, Rhett Tucker leads the way. He has led the opening 2 laps so far. He's leading from Raul Meza. Chris was just in behind. Justin Michael thought about opening up the top side that last time by from 4th down the back straightaway. He opted against it, though. So at the moment, it's a breakaway from 1st place all the way out throughout your entirety of the top 10. Therefore, they have to go all the way back to 11th place to find the next group of cars that's looking to potentially go just a touch side-by-side deeper in the field. But so far, there hasn't been too many aggressive moves. You got one car on the outside here or there. It's nothing that these drivers are really concerned about at the moment, right? It's more to just kind of poke that front end out, cool the car a little bit, make sure you're still going to be there for the long run.
Absolutely. That's another thing we should have touched on, too, is these next-gen cars don't the Gen 6 cars did, Nolan, but they do tend to get a little warm after about 5 laps of nose to tail running. So that's why you're probably going to see a little bit of a gap between these guys. Not quite pushing the issue yet, not quite pushing each other yet. I mean, it's only lap 4 of 80, so we got a long way to go, but I promise you, once we get down to about lap 70, 75, you will see some bump drafting like you've probably never seen before.
And at the end of lap number 4, Tucker still leading the way from this one. You have to wonder how long it'll be before Raul Meza decides he wants to try to have a look at this himself, or even if when Brett Tucker wants to talk back in line. Of course, if you're the one that's headed up these trains, right, you have to be using so much more fuel to push that air away, whereas everybody else in behind you is just willing to sit in line, save a little bit of fuel throughout the course of this race. So no doubt Brett Tucker might have to consider maybe dropping down to the back to save a bit more gas himself, so he can come out and pit with the others and get those drafting partners when you come on down to pit road. So the top 10 train is still single filed out. Looking back at about 16th at the moment, and looks like the outside is trying to get opened up in the second pack, but so far there's just not been enough people that wants to go up and make it work.
No, and this early in the race, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of adventure up there on the outside line. At part though, they'll get back in single file and try and close that 4-second gap that we see between 10th and 11th place right there. The further back they get, if it goes green the whole way, Nolan, it's not going to be good for them. It's going to make them very hard for anybody to make a charge for the win. So that's what they need to do, is get single file and get caught back up to that main pack.
So we continue to watch this single file train dice its way around the Daytona International Speedway, and this is where we really start to have to think about strategy, right? Of course, when these single file trains get a bit more spaced out, it becomes a little bit more difficult to save that fuel, and especially if you're guys like Brett Tucker, you have to try to balance how many laps do you want to lead in this race versus how many positions do you want to lose on pit road by having to come down so much sooner. You have to come down with a drafting partner, and so far Brett Tucker is setting himself up to the point where he would have to come down by himself, or at least hope that a few other guys are going to short pit with him, because he is going to be using that much more fuel to just break the air for these guys. And I can tell you right now that guys like Meza just behind, Stevens, Michael, Duke, and more, they're not about to pass him up for the lead. They're more than content to just sitting behind him at the moment and save some fuel.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not real sure what the fuel mileage is on these vehicles at this track. I didn't get a chance to talk to any of the drivers during practice to see if they had done fuel runs yet or not. I'm guessing it's probably going to be, maybe 30, 45 laps.
And of course, that would also depend, about fuel tank limitations as well. Is that going to be a present factor in tonight's race? Only one way to wait and see, and that's going to be to figure out where that pit cycle is going to come on down. So just going to kind of take a little bit of a look over throughout the field. You can see a big shot of them right there. Got first to 10th, and then from there, 11th on back to about the 19th place, 18th, check me on that one, are all in the group. 19th is running by himself. He's falling back to the 20th to 21st in the two-car tandem. They have 22nd and 23rd all running by themselves as well. And I have seen quite a bit of damage on Jeremy Crandall's machine as he comes out of turn 4. So the 73 Chevy having some major issues at the moment for himself, likely down on power as a result of that. This is probably one of those very few tracks, right, John, where you don't want any kind of front-end damage to the smallest little ding. Almost guarantees that you're not going to be able to go for a win.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the good news is if it's small enough and it's just fender work, Nolan, if it's just fender work or maybe the back bumper, that gets fixed pretty quickly on a pit stop. Now, that being said, if it's front-end damage where the radiator grill is, I have seen it time and time again. If you don't get it repaired, you'll overheat, you'll blow your engine. And sometimes even if you do get it repaired, you'll still find yourself overheating. And definitely, if you're down on RPMs, you're just not. And then you'll find yourself just tooling around out there on your own at about $1.60. That's no fun at all. And it looks like Raj has found himself in that predicament. He and Crandall both are just way off pace right now. Dodge is a full lap behind, it looks like, and Crandall's going to be joining him there pretty soon.
Don't forget as well, there are 4 stages, laps 15 and 30 for the Comp Yellows. So this will mean that it will be 5 laps to go this time by at stage number 1. So a heads-up sprint. And you talked about how maybe within 10 laps to go, that's where we're going to be starting to see these guys get a bit more antsy. Don't forget, though, stage points up for grabs. You got, of course,
That's right.
10 points for first place, 9 for second, 8 for third, and so on and so forth. 10th place gets 1. So those stage points, they can be the make or break moments in the championship. We've seen that before in other leagues past. So these guys might want to start racing just a little bit harder to get those points. You can see other guys deeper in this train starting to think about making those moves to the outside to work their way up through the order.
And you can see that second pack is inching its way back into the picture as well. And I did forget about the stage breaks. You're right. That's going to be helpful to the guys that got damaged. It looks like Crandall and Roche both could use this caution that comes up soon and take the time to get their cars fixed up. And at the restart, they'll be right back in it. But, yeah, you see the second-place car of Raul Meza in that Serve Pro Camaro. He keeps peeking the outside. He'll peek to the inside. We might see him go for some sort of a move to get the stage win here. Oh, we got a car swinging way up high right there. Didn't expect that.
That was Adam Newbert in the number 6 machine.
I wonder where he thinks he's going. I mean, he's got no help out there at all. He's got one guy behind him now, but he's going to lose a spot or two with that outside maneuver there. And now he's got no help at all. So he'll follow the tail end of this 10-car lead we get.
And that allows for the second pack headed up by Corey Saucier to close in that much more. So the number 3 Chevy definitely starting to close in the gap. You can see there was a bump for Victor Bartlett down the front straightaway that last time by. That second train started and inched its way closer and closer. 3 laps to go. It's stage number 1, and this is a race that could come down right to the wire to determine the winner in stage number 1. These guys, at the moment, just trying to get some kind of stage points. That entire first train is made up of only guys that are going to be getting the stage points, right? So the first driver outside of this train, not going to be getting those points. And now starting to pick up a bit more in the bag. Adam Newbert wants to maybe hook up with Derek Kilgore, who moved to the outside line. That's only going to allow for Jose Luis Rivera, though, to look up the inside. That puts Rivera up to 8th place with Andrew McGronigle also going to be in the mix.
And look what's happening here. That allowed that second pack to catch these guys. 3 of them swapped to the outside, and they got a great head of steam coming through the turn, the trioval right here. And I look for these guys that line outside to keep this momentum up. They've got 2 cars ahead of them that jumped up with them, and we could have maybe a 20-car fight for 10 spots right here at the end of this stage.
And 2 laps to go. McGronigle heads up the outside charge. And look who's going to follow. David Dugan, the 78 Chevy, going to go to the front. How about Chris Stevens making the jump to the top side? This is where it all starts to kick off. What does Rhett Tucker do? He's got the outside charge. He wants to block that run. He's going to have to do it here. He's not going to be able to get up there, though. So it's going to be side by side for the race lead out of turn 4. And 1 lap to go in stage number 1. Chris Stevens going to lead and immediately abandons Duke from the outside.
That's nothing we've never seen before right there. The guy gets pushed up all the way on the outside, ducks down as soon as he clears the leader to take that lead. And now it's just going to be a question of who's going to get second on back from here, I believe.
And so Chris Stevens, this is going to be a bit of an interesting situation to see how this could play out. 1 more corner to go. Oh, they're wrecking behind. Oh, and it's going to be a huge wreck in turn 1. They're all wadded up. Is it going to be a yellow at will? Stage 1 comes to a smashing end. And who was in front when the caution flew? I think it might have just been the 14 of Chris Stevens. And in fact, it was. So Stevens, your stage 1 winner. Raul Meza in 2nd. Michael 3rd. Corey Thompson in 4th. Derek Kilgore in 5th with Corsi Saucier in 6th. Jose Luis Rivera will be in 7th. Victor Bartlett 8th. Eric Zimmerman 9th. And Nicholas Sacco rounding out your top 10. And we're going to see if we can potentially get our own little...
Taking it to the next level. It is easy, and it should be easy, and it should be fun, and it shouldn't take a whole lot of time.
Keep up with coverage of esports with the Northwest Cup and Truck Series, the American iRacing League, S&B Cup Series, and so much more on your home for sim racing, LSRTV. Of course, remember, you can watch it, and then you can listen to it on CRN, the community radio network at wearecrn.com. Check us out when you can.
An automobile purchase shouldn't be hard. The hardest part for the consumer in the whole process should be selecting the vehicle. We have the online credit application. We can bring the car to you to see it, to test drive it, to deliver it. We have all the tools in place, and we've had them in place for a long time. I just think now we've perfected it. It's become part of our culture. We've, kind of taken it to the next level. It is easy, and it should be easy, and it should be fun, and it shouldn't take a whole lot of time.
Hey, it's Wesley Outland on the set of the Bull Ring on Speed 51 TV, but I also want to remind everybody that you can keep up with coverage of esports with the Northwest Cup and Truck Series, the American iRacing League, S&B Cup Series, and so much more on your home for sim racing, LSRTV. Of course, remember, you can watch it, and then you can listen to it on CL.
An automobile purchase shouldn't be hard.
Well, we're green flag racing in stage 2 once again, and again, I'd like to apologize for the technical difficulties as a result of the major server issues that I'm pretty sure everybody at this point will be aware of, and still trying to work through some of those difficulties, but I think we could be at least in a more stable position. We've green flag racing in stage 2 for about 2 laps. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Serve Pro 200 for round number 1 of the North American Sim Racing Association. My name is Noel Rempel. I've got John Mustin Jr. beside me in the commentary box with Cody Wooten down behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. So stage 1 ended in sparks and fire. And, of course, that means you got some seriously heavy hitters that now have some serious damage on the job. Look at Brett Tucker, right? No fast spares available for these drivers. So Tucker's left out there with no front clip. And he was your former pole sitter.
Yeah, absolutely was doing really great on track until that caution came out. He got caught up in it and wiped out a bunch of the fastest cars on track. But in the meantime, we still have some fast guys left out there. One of them looking like the 93 of Raul Meza. I thought he was damaged in that Nolan, but he looks like he's doing fine back there in 4th.
Well, you mentioned it yourself, right? So long as you get yourself some of these smaller little packs that are some a bit of panel damage, but not so much mechanical damage, you should be fine. And Meza does seem like he's got a scratch on, so the number 93 car definitely doing something right out there to keep his way up in 4th place, avoiding the big wreck that collected about 8 drivers at the end of stage number 1, and just now single file now for the first time throughout all of stage 2. Coming to the close in about 10 laps, by the way. Stage 2 ends at the end of lap number 30. Just as stage 1 came to a close at the end of lap number 15. So 2 15-lap stages to kick things off tonight. You've seen a couple of drivers starting to look high, look low, think about making these little moves, but so far nobody's been willing to do anything too drastic just yet.
No, they kind of saved that until that last stage. So we may be seeing the same thing. They're just going to ride along for a few laps, and then when it gets down to 1 or 2 laps to go for the stage, then we'll probably see them start mixing it up again.
And honestly, one thing that I am a huge fan about this race so far is the fact that despite that big crash, you still got so many drivers up in the field, right? You've got from 1st place all the way back to 14th, all in one big line. Before you had about 2 10-car trains instead. So while it's not going to be as much as the 18-car total pack we saw at the end of stage 1, it's still definitely big enough to have yourself a solid race throughout the course of tonight. It's back further down the order for 15th, 16th, and 17th. This is headed up by Jose Luis Rivera. That's Corey Saucier in the middle with Jeremy Crandall just tucked in the rear. And by the way, I also want to point out there have been 3 retirements so far on the day. Those drivers are Eric Zimmerman, Judd Danielson, and David Duke. All those drivers getting collected in that big one at the end of stage number 1. They are all down the pit road or in the garage.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it is the season opener. They've got a long way to go. They can make this up from tonight. So just, keep a positive mind and remember there's always next week. And, it'll be okay. It'll work itself out. I tell you what, I'm watching this race up front, and these guys are just riding along. I think that big caution might have put the scare into them there, Nolan, seeing how bad it went so fast.
But even in that first stage, right, we didn't see guys going 2-3 wide until about 2 laps to go, and 3 wide didn't even come around on the last lap until the very end in turns 3 and 4, and that's what caused that major wreck in the first place. And you see a couple of guys looking to open up the top lane just at the tail end of this leading group, but so far, dare I say, mixed results, particularly for Jake Roel, who made up a couple of spots down the backstretch. Well, he's immediately lost them, but then won through 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's such a gamble to
Oh!
try and duck it. Oh, we got a caution on track.
Corey Saucier around out of turn 4 to bring out caution flag number 2 on the night. Looks like he got into it with Rivera out of turn number 4. So this is probably the last place you'd expect to see a wreck come place. We'll take a look at the Pulse Poppers replay now. We'll take a look at this one through turns 3 and 4. The last place you expect to see a caution is from the 1-3 car train, just trying to keep up to the guys up in front.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at that myself. Let's see what we got going on here.
Out of turn 4. Wow, 2 coming together. 1 coming down, 1 coming up, and both meet in the middle. Saucier makes door-to-door contact with Rivera. I think Saucier comes down a little bit more than Rivera comes up, though. That sent Rivera over into the wall, almost flip it over as well. Rivera pulls a 360 and manages to save it from the bottom side before he can enter pit road. That is massively unfortunate, though, and this means it's going to be a heads-up dash to end stage 2 here.
Yeah, and those guys are never going to live this down. And when you're the 3 beat-up cars on track and you still wreck each other, oh my goodness, you get so much stuff from the rest of your league mates. It's not even funny.
And, well, word from race control, we will not be having a restart in stage 2. This is the end of stage number 2. So make it 2 for 2 on the moment that we've had stages end under the caution flag. That puts Justin Michael in first place, Chris Stevens second, Blake Lothian third to round out stage 2 podium. Raul Meza is fourth with Troy Thompson in fifth, Nathan Mann in sixth, Ryan Ducombe in seventh with Derek Kilgore in eighth, Victor Bartlett in ninth. Max Steck rounds out your top 10. So will we see yellow flag pit stops? I would imagine so. It makes sense to come on down and get that fuel right, especially now that you know that the stage is at a close, and it looks like Justin Michael is going to be opting to lead them down. And last time earlier, I forgot to mention this, but Eric Zimmerman had himself a collision on a pit road with one of the other drivers in the field. Speaking of Zimmerman, actually back out on track 8 laps down as well, trying to catch up with the pacing line. We'll see if there's any dramas on pit road this time around. So far, though, looks like everybody's making their way in cleanly.
Yeah, it looks like it so far. Under caution, you're still going to lose a spot or two, but it's better than doing it under green when you lose the draft and wind up, racing around by yourself with nobody to help you out. Man, there's some wrinkled up race cars in the picture right there. I love these next gen cars, Nolan. Nolan. I'm gonna tell you why. They look so much like their street counterparts. They really, really do.
Mm-hmm. They really do. They look a lot more like the street counterparts that the Gen 6 cars ever did. I mean, yeah, anybody can really see. They're not, even the bodies aren't really stock, are they? But, I mean, closer to how a stock car would, you might expect a stock car to look at least.
Absolutely. I'm digging it. I really am. I did notice, however, that there were a couple of cars out there riding around with no factory stickers on them to denote Chevy. Sorry.
So it's interesting to see that sort of thing, isn't it? I mean, you get sometimes when drivers like to kind of be a bit clever about things, shall we? I mean, I actually saw this just last night, as a matter of fact, in another league race. Somebody opted to turn the front of their Mustang into a Dodge Charger. Let me tell you what. Seeing a Charger grill with Mustang lights is about the cursed thing I think I've ever seen on the service in all the 3 years I've been doing commentary.
Amen, brother.
Holy cow!
I disagree with you at all on that.
It's one of the,
some things you don't do.
You do it. You don't think about it. You just do it, right?
Oh man, yeah, but I guess I don't know if iRacing changed something or if that was just a result of the mixed up server problems we've been having today. But usually on the Cup Series, those are stamped on the car, right? You can't take those off. But like I said, I thought it looked like a Tesla is what I was looking at. It was it was a Ford Mustang that had no front stickers, and I was just wondering if that's a new thing that iRacing has decided we didn't have to have those on there, or was it just a glitch? I'm a painter, Nolan, by trade. A designer. I do graphic design work and stuff like that, and so that side of iRacing has always been my fascination. Well, yes, sir. Mr. Producer, sir.
1 lap to green here this time by, and we will see how this restart could play out. It's going to be about 32 more laps to go. 52 more laps, excuse me, would take that green flag. So that could mean we're in for one heck of a show for us later on here tonight in this one. Of course, green flag pit stops. Haven't seen them tonight. And in the first 2 stages, we were not expecting any green flag pit stops, with them only being 15 laps in length. Not going to be the case anymore. What do you reckon the strategy might be for some of these guys out there on the track?
To be honest with you, if I'm down there, 3rd car back on the inside line, I'm worried about those 2 cars in front of me. They got massive amounts of damage, specifically the Exalt, the DuPont color there. I can't see his car number, it might be 24. He's got no back end. He's got a lot of right side damage. The Folgers 25 has got a lot of right side damage. And they're leading the pack, Nolan. They're leading the pack.
And now they're taking it to the green flag as well. Justin Michael just besting Bartlett to the line to take the race lead away. Looking for it around the top side. Doesn't look like he'll be able to get it this time around. We are green flag racing in stage number 3. And now we get to see, will this go green to the end, or are we in for 1 or 2 more yellows before this race is concluded? 52 laps remaining at the moment. Mezzo working with Justin Michael to try to work that outside lane. So far, that outside lane is staying a lot more formed up this time around than it has on the first 2 stage restarts.
I'm really impressed by the 24 and 25 being able to stay out front with the damage they've got on those cars. That is really, really impressive.
And how about looking for the outside lane, potentially trying to make a charge for the lead. Here comes Blake Lothian going to abandon Justin Michael. Michael ducks down low, but Lothian has got no help at the moment. He's going to be losing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, make it 5th now outside of the top 5. Now gets hooked up with Mauro Meza on the outside line, but is it too little too late? That will check up the entire outside line. So the 5 cars working the top, getting all sorts of squirrely, and that is really hampering their ability to go for these positions. And a couple of guys opted to bow out. That was Nathan Rhodes you saw jumping down to the inside line, running Nathan Mann down below the line to avoid a collision.
Yeah, that outside line, especially right now with a full tank of fuel, if they could get nose to tail and learn and use the side draft properly, they'd make up a lot of room. It would make up a lot of room. But, I guess some of these guys are having a hard time with the handling on the car and couldn't keep the wheels straight and decided just to jump down inside there and ditch those 3 guys on the outside. As they do that, look, they are falling all the way back.
Falling all the way to the tail end of the field. It's only 3 drivers at the moment that are side by side deeper in the field. Or 3 rows, I guess I should say. Those guys on the outside, you see Lothian along with Meza and then Chris Stevens. Talk about Meza and Stevens, right? I mean, they were so good at the front of this field. Oh, Stevens making an aggressive chop to the inside line. Stevens was so consistent running to the top of this field, so was Meza. This is really the first time they've been this far back in the order. They're going to be trying, no doubt, to work their way up back to the front of this thing before long. And you look up at the front of the field at the moment, Victor Bartlett leading this race, started all the way back in 18th place. One of those drivers that opted not to set a qualifying time. Once again, kind of proving the point that sometimes it pays off to just kind of hang around throughout the first little sprints of the race and let the field take themselves out in front of you.
Yeah, and he was involved in that first accident, Nolan. He's got the damage on the car to prove it, and as did the 24. But look at him; it's not slowing him down. I'm really impressed by that. Of course, they've got cars behind them now. I'm not sure how those cars would react to being. Oh wow, big wiggle back there in the back really mixed things up. I'm not sure who started that, but completely lost my train of thought there.
It was Corey Thompson you saw that got spun around, and there is a car on the apron. That is one Eric Zimmerman just leaving pit road after getting some more damage fixed. Zimmerman is 8 laps down, and he is trying to just regain some lost ground. I hope these guys can have another crash that could allow for him to be able to work his way further up in this field. The 25 car of Bartlett still leads the way from Lual and Justin Michael down in 3rd. And how about Stefan Lual? I think that's a big name at the moment. Look at that. No rear clip on that car. So that's the last thing you'd expect to see pushing your race leader.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would have been nervous to line up behind that car in that last restart, but I mean, apparently it's not affecting their speed at all. They've been up front since the green flag dropped in that last restart, Nolan, and it doesn't look like they are slowing down any bit at all.
And of course, we might be through with the stage competition cautions, but that is not to say there's not yet one more prize to be given out before the end of this race. Now, we can thank David Duke for this one. It is, of course, courtesy of the number 23 car, number 78 car, 23rd place, 18 down, unfortunately, out of this race. But the leader at lap 50 receive a $25 Disney gift card. Now, that is to honor Disney's 50th anniversary. Of course, a company that a lot of people hold in very high regards for themselves. They've been a lot of childhood memories, myself included. So David Duke wanted to do a little bit of a favor. He'll be handing out a $25 gift card to your race leader at lap 50. You wonder, is that going to make things pick up a bit more than in the next 16 laps or so?
That's a really good point, Nolan. It's possible. I guess it just depends on who wants to go to Disneyland.
It depends on your priorities, right? I mean, on the one hand, you got points for the race. On the other hand, $25. That's $25. You're not having to work really hard for it.
That's a Coke, I guess, right? And then maybe a pizza.
Oh,
we got contact and spin.
One spinning. That's Torrey Thompson, infield grass. No caution for the time being. Looks like we'll keep that one green, but it looks like Thompson got hooked by Stevens down on the front straightaway. And yeah, no caution. We're going to keep that one green. Flag racing. We'll take a look now at your Pulse Poppers replay here as we throw things on backwards. This is entering turns 3 and 4, and it was just a tiny bit of a hook to the left rear quarter panel by Stevens and entering the tri-oval here, John.
That's all it takes, just a little bit of contact, especially going to the tri-oval. The car is really light right there. It's not much. And, that looked to me like maybe, I don't know, maybe he didn't realize that Stevens was down there in the 14, maybe, and was coming down. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It didn't look like it was intentional. You know, it just looked like maybe the spotter wasn't talking to him.
Yeah, it looks like Tom's got a bit unsettled out of turn 4. He tried to cut back down in line, but Stevens was already there, and, well, that's all she wrote. Unfortunately for Stevens, no more stage cautions coming up, so he's going to have to hope for an actual caution for a wreck.
Yeah.
To put himself back into contention.
I'm just really impressed with these two cars up front, Nolan. I know I said it a couple of times already, but to go through what they both went through with that first caution, I would have thought I was out. You know, I might not even got back on track, but these guys, damaged and all, got on track, chose to stay out when other folks pitted, and now they are up front, and they're staying up front. And that's just really impressive. Now, we got about 12 laps to go before that Disneyland handout. I don't know how long that's going to last as far as the staying in line thing goes, but should be interesting.
So lap 38 at the moment. There's going to be about 12 laps to go at the line before that $25 gift card is going to be handed on out to the leader of this race. At the moment, it looks like nobody's willing to really contend with Victor Bartlett to go for that lead. But I think it is, of course, also worth noting that you have had this top field that has been split apart significantly because of that latest spin. It's now about 1st to 7th, and you got 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th all trying to steadily close in the gap as well. With them running single file, though, it makes it a bit more tricky. You see just up the road, that is Zimmerman and Adam Newbert that are all in the line. Now, Zimmerman's got to be careful here. He's running 30 miles an hour slower than your leaders. They're all going to funnel through around the outside line. And Zimmerman's going to go down one more.
Yeah, right now he's just hanging on, hoping that maybe there is another caution that takes a few more cars out and he can keep going around the track and make up some positions. Wow, look at that. Those guys were really, really brave going 3 and 4 wide. And 3 wide is not going to work. I was just about to say it. 3 wide does not work going through the tri-oval at Daytona. It barely works anywhere at Daytona.
You can almost see that one coming a mile off. Max Steck just kind of muscles Jeremy Crandall out of line. Crandall, I think, tried to block both lines from Jake Roel and Steck. And it was contact between the 0-5 as Crandall comes down. that kicks off this mess on the front straight, but they collected about 5 different drivers. And you'll take a look now at your Pulse Poppers replay once again. This is Ryan Ducon. Watch the wreck developing up in front. Watch the 73 car. He's going to come down to the 05. And I have to say, that's not the Tide Chevrolet's fault. I mean, I have to say, it's all on Jeremy Crandall right there. He came right down into him.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he just lost it. You know, when you get in the middle of a couple cars like that, especially with this next-gen car, it's got a smaller spoiler, and it gets loose. It just takes the wind off the spoiler on the car, and it gets loose. And so he may have just actually lost control, but either way, he went down and clipped that 05 car, the Tide ride, and it was on from there, and unfortunately took out some fast cars. Now, that being said, we were just talking about a couple of guys out there were looking for a caution to get caught back up to the field, to maybe take out a few cars to help them up into the points, you know, for the season standings and whatnot. So, you know, this is kind of a dual thing here. You know, it's good for some and bad for others. Look at all the cars that are damaged out there now. Oh.
Well, the one plus side about being a damaged race car at the moment is the fact that just about everybody is just as damaged as you, so you're not going to necessarily be at too much of a disadvantage. So Bartlett led them down. Now it becomes the question, is the 25 going to lead them off? Don't think he will, though. Missed the pit box. He's going to be losing a couple of seconds now as a result of that one. So Victor Bartlett missing the pit stall, and already he's been passed up by a couple of these drivers. Watching the 29, Nicholas Sacco. He's not going to lead them out, though. Looks like, check that, Justin Michael in the Toyota Camry going to be the one to lead them out of pit road. So Justin Michael going on through with a 7-second pit stop. I believe that was for fuel only for the number 87. So once again, get that pit strategy starting to pick on up. Halfway through here in the Serve Pro 200. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a few moments.
An automobile purchase shouldn't be hard. The hardest part for the consumer in the whole process should be selecting the vehicle. We have the online credit application. We can bring the car to you to see it, to test drive it, to deliver it. We have all the tools in place, and we've had them in place for a long time. I just think now we've perfected it. It's become part of our culture. We've, kind of taken it to the next level. It is easy, and it should be easy, and it should be fun, and it shouldn't take a whole lot of time.
Hey, it's Wesley Outland on the set of the Bull Ring on Speed 51 TV, but I also want to remind everybody that you can keep up with coverage of esports with the Northwest Cup and Truck Series, the American iRacing League, S&B Cup Series, and so much more on your home for sim racing, LSRTV. Of course, remember, you can watch it, and then you can listen to it on CRN, the community radio network at wearecrn.com. Check us out when you can.
So halfway through the Serve Pro 200 at Daytona International Speedway, take a quick look top to bottom of your field. Justin Michael, your pole sit on this one after pit stops with Derek Kilgore in second. Nicholas Sacco is third with Jake Ruel fourth. Meza is in fifth. Roge is in sixth. Stefan Llewellyn is eighth at the moment. With of course, you're going to have guys seventh, with Blake Lothian in eighth. Troy Thompson is ninth with Rhett Tucker in 10th. Victor Bartlett is 11th with Jose Luis Rivera in 12th. McGrongle is going to be in 13th. Dukem is 14th. Steck is 15th. Newbert, Stevens, Crandall round out the 18 cars on the lead. Lap man, Zimmerman, Saucier also laps down, trying to get back out on track. Danielson, Duke remain some of the only full retirements we've seen so far in this race, but I do believe Saucier is set to join them. Out of turn 4, lights are out on the pace car. And a lot of beaten up race cars up at the front of this thing, John, and we are set to take it back to green.
Yes, we are. We got the Beretta Toyota Camry out front. Drop the green flag, drop the hammer, boys. We're back to racing. Oh, he scoots up to the outside there, throws a massive block. That was kind of a dangerous move right there, Nolan.
I mentioned that, but Raul Meza getting all sorts of unsettled through the tri-oval and now gets blocked off by the 91 of Nathan Roche from the middle line as well. So it's an antsy restart, a testy restart at Daytona for the time being as we take it back to green. And first place runner now, Justin Michael, gets set to lead the way in the number 87 Toyota Camry. And from there, you got cars settled all the way back to about the 12th position running in your top grouping. And from there, it's just single car packs along with a couple of two-car tandems deeper in the field as well. And you can see one of those two-car tandems now headed up by Max Steck with Adam Newbert just tucked in behind for 14th and 15th. And, well, Andrew McGronigal coming on down pit road of the number 09 machine. So it looks like has quite a bit of damage. You can see no front clip, back bumper is all beat up on the back of the number 9 Mustang. So it looks as though McGronigal, might be looking to retire from this race.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because he's got a fun name to say, man. McGronigal. His name's McGronigal. He's probably from Scotland. Probably somewhere south of Glasgow, if I had to guess. Anyway, back up front, we've got Justin Michael still leading the way in that Beretta Toyota. That number 7 of Kilgore was all over his back bumper last lap, man. And I really thought that he was going to try and move him out of the way going through the turns, but looks like he's going to back off now. Probably let the engine cool off a little bit.
And, of course, you still got your biggest mover in this race as well. Looking at you, number 91, Nathan Roche at the moment. The number 91 car has been on the charge in this race so far. It started all the way back in 23rd place, stone dead last. But very consistently throughout all of Stage 2 and all of Stage 3 so far, he has been running in the top 5. So I have a feeling that number 91 car could prove to be a serious contender for tonight's race. I mean, even your pole sitter, your current race leader, right? 7th place and up to 1st. And 5 laps to go before one David Duke hands out a $25 Disney gift card to celebrate Disney's 50th anniversary. You have to wonder, Justin Michael still leads this race, and before we thought it might be going to the number 25 car of Victor Bartlett, right? But of course, Bartlett, he had that issue on pit road where he missed his stall. He finds himself all the way back in 9th place now. So Bartlett's got a bit of work ahead of him if he wants to claim those $25 for himself.
Yes, he does, and I don't think he's going to be able to make that room up soon enough with 4 laps to go without being overly aggressive, and that's not something you want to do right now. But you were talking about Roche in the 91 car, and looking at him and the 29 Asako right in front of him there, they look like maybe the only maybe 2 or 3 cars on track that don't have any damage at this point. So they got a lot going for them in that department.
Eric Kilgore still looks like he might be trying to find a way through in the number 7 Mustang. Looking a bit higher this time around out of turn number 2, but still opts to check up instead in behind the number 87 Camry up in front. So Derek Kilgore is biding his time. He's being patient, and you can see Roche as well still running in that 4th place with a small gap back to Raul Meza. And I find this interesting that Roche so consistently takes a bit of a slightly higher line to the middle of these corners. I wonder maybe trying to cool the car. Of course, that is a big issue that a lot of these Gen 6 and I believe these Gen 7 cars have as well, right? Overheating while in the draft. It's so easy when you get closer to these back bumpers. Trying so often to see drivers maybe poking more to the outside lines with these corners or down the straightaways. It just helps them to get a bit of more air down that radiator.
Yeah, and it's a problem. Believe it or not, that's a problem that's only here in the iRacing service. I talked to some friends of mine in the industry that have been part of these testings. Yeah, and it's just, again, that goes back to what we touched on at the top of the show, Nolan. Remember, when iRacing put this car out, not all of the data was in yet on the next-gen car. I don't think they'd even done any Daytona testing. So a lot of this is going to be redone and fixed once NASCAR turns out the official, ready-to-go specs on these cars. And I imagine that iRacing will make some adjustments to that because there's 2 louvers on top of the hood of these cars that are actually open that do help pull heat out of the engine compartment. And I don't think that's been modeled into the iRacing car. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there knows better, I'll be glad to hear it. But just talking from some folks that I really know that are both designers at iRacing and some friends of mine that are actually on race teams, that's the biggest difference is in the real car, you can sit right up behind a guy for 4 or 5 laps before the temperature jumps up 2 degrees. But in iRacing, you're back there for 2 laps and you're looking at a red blinky light that says, hey man, back off.
I mentioned the louvers being on the front end of these new next-gen cars. They were not present on the Gen 6 cars, and I can definitely see them on the cars. Whether they actually have any kind of an impact at the moment remains to be seen, but from how much these guys are looking around a little bit to maybe cool that car, I would assume possibly not at the moment, but of course, still very much new cars. They were on the iRacing service even before they were tested in the real world as well, which means that we could find ourselves with a lot of changes going out to these cars throughout the course of even just this NASRA season in 2022, right? And that could, shall we say, make things interesting when it gets down to championships.
Oh, absolutely. And I am, to be honest with you, I am really looking forward to the race in the Coliseum and the real life in these cars. As you know, they took some of these guys out to Bowman Gray to do some testing because they say Bowman Gray is the closest match they have to what the Coliseum track is going to look like. Now, can you imagine these Cup cars at Bowman Gray for a race? I mean,
we have just crossed. We have crossed lap 50, and guess who's up in your race lead? Justin Michael. So the number 87 car winning himself $25 for a gift card from Disney, courtesy of one David Duke in celebration of Disney's 50th anniversary. So Michael still leads this race, evidently enough. A lot of these drivers opting that $25, not quite worth making it 2-3 wide for the lead just yet.
No, but you know what? I bet if it had been, say, $25 worth of Budweiser credit, that might have been a different story. I'll tell you right now, I'll
further down the order
for that.
Look at Stefan Llewellyn making an aggressive move to the inside of Raul Meza of turn 1. Did not expect to see that for the number 25 Chevrolet. So Llewellyn going to move himself up another spot. And that just came because Raul Meza left the door open just a touch too much. And Meza now falls to the back of this field. And luckily, Llewellyn catches back up to the back end of Rouge before he loses the draft. You were steadily noticing some of these drivers being put laps down, right? That's Jeremy Crandall, the 73 car. He was consistently up at the top 5 before they crashed out of turn number 4. And now Crandall having to be put yet another lap down, making it 1. Just about 13 laps past the initial restart. Rick Thompson as well, I noticed, was looking a bit more aggressive, trying to go for positions. And here's one of the 2-car trains further down the order that is currently just trying to survive this race, making a 3-car tandem with one Max Stack closing up from behind. This is headed up by former pole sitter Rhett Tucker, who honestly was a serious contender to win tonight's race before he was collected in the big one at the end of stage number 1. The train is also headed up by Adam Newbern in the number 6.
Yeah, this is your modified class right here.
The discount modifieds.
That's right, the discount modified class right here. But hey, you got to give it to these guys, though, Nolan. They could just as easily park this car, say, I'm done with the night, and instead they're going to stay out there. They're going to ride around as long as they can in the hopes that somebody else falls out. Because in the end, it's all about the points. When you're running for a championship, you want to get as many points as possible. Even with the stage style format that they've got these days, every point still counts. So, hey, God bless them. They're out there running around, trying to stay out of the leader's way, trying to get as many points as they can, hoping somebody else falls out.
We haven't talked about strategy in a little bit. Let's bring that discussion up one more time. 26 laps remaining. They've been out there for 14 laps now. There'll be 40 laps total. They have to be out there. Now, here's the question, right? It was originally a 50-lap stage. Is 40 laps enough to make it to the end of this race on fuel?
Oh, I wish I knew. I was just thinking that. I'm glad you brought it up. I have no idea the max fuel on these cars at Daytona. I know with the older car, it was between 35 to 42 laps, depending on where you ran in the draft. I don't know. I know that I'm almost 95% certain they're going to have to pit one more time, at least for fuel. but I could be wrong. I'm more than likely, ask Cody, I'm wrong a lot on this kind of stuff. So who knows?
And we were just talking about fuel, right? I'm even hearing on some of the in-car radio, some of the drivers looking to discuss some of the fuel strategies a little bit as well. So there is still the potential for that to open wide up for us if we have to come down for pit stops. And I'd imagine, right, it would be fuel-only pit stops for splash and goes. I mean, at a track like Daytona, you can very easily double-stint the tires. And I remember a long time ago in believe it or not, a 12-hour endurance race with stock cars around the oval. Some guys are going so far as to try to triple stint the tires on these. So the possibility for a double stint on the tires is very much present. And I'd say at a track like Daytona, it's worth it for that splash and go to make sure you don't lose touch with the leading pack.
Absolutely. The tires, I have noticed over the last couple of builds in iRacing, especially at Daytona, they don't wear as much as they used to. You can get away with it doing a no-tire stop if you're comfortable with that, or even a two-tire stop because it's going to take a little bit of time to get the gas in. However, the closer they get to the end of the race, the less fuel they're going to pump into the car. So, you weigh that as well. If you're going for more than 5 gallons, then take 2 if you want to. But I've done it, dude. I've done it myself. I ran an 85-lap race without changing the tires once, so it can be done.
We talk about pit stops, and I have a feeling that, the timing of these pit stops could be pretty crucial, right? I mean, and this was honestly a bit of a surprise to me when I first saw these next-gen cars. You'd think moving from 5 lug nuggets down to 1 would make these pit stops, that much faster, right? We could be seeing like 7-8 second pit stops like you have in like the NTT IndyCar series. But that has ended up not being the case, of course, because you only have 1 lug as opposed to 5. That lug nut has to be a heck of a lot bigger than the original 5 you were using. Of course, you have modified wheel guns now as well for that. And all of that means to take the 1 tire off and put it back on takes about the same amount of time, actually, that it would take to put 5 of the smaller lug nuts off and put a fresh 5 on. So I think that kind of goes to show right there that the pit stops, relatively about the same length. I think they are a few tenths quicker, but it is a bit of a marginal difference, right? And so in terms of trying to time out pit strategies when you compare to actual time stopped in your box, you can honestly probably take reference from your stops in the Gen 6 cars and not be too far off.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Nolan, I haven't done a pit stop yet with this new build, but I can tell you that in the last, season 4, week 4, whatever, I did run a couple of races in the official races, and iRacing hasn't changed pit stops for these cars. My guys were I could still hear 5 lug nuts coming off of each car, even though it physically shows, it physically shows 1 lug nut, but my guys were, I'm like, okay, well, I just, you guys do whatever you got to do. Just make sure I get tires, that's all. But, again, there's.
Take my insightful predictions there and just huck those out the window right now and toss them on the fire while you're at it. That kind of throw.
I'm sorry, man.
You just threw that torch to all of that. I
don't know.
That explains that.
It could just be sounds. I don't know, but it was kind of weird to me the first time I did a pit stop in the next-gen car, and I heard, instead of, I heard, I'm like, dude, what are you guys doing out there? There's supposed to be only one of those things on there, but, hey, again, we already said it a couple times. iRacing, what they were trying to do was just give us a taste of what this car was going to be like when they first gave it to us. And everybody was okay with that, They mainly did, let's be honest, I mean, they had that all-star E-race with the real NASCAR drivers is the whole reason they pushed this thing out like they did. And we were all okay with that. We all understood that there's going to be some changes to it. And I have heard from some folks inside iRacing that they don't know exactly when, but the pit stop guys, the pit crews will be redesigned to more closely match an actual pit stop in this car. And I'm with you on that. I mean, I would think that going from 5 lugs to 1 lug would be a little bit quicker, hopefully. I don't know.
We talked about pit stops being a possibility, and Jeremy Crandall, 1 lap down now, came down to pit road a little while ago. You also saw Chris Stevens a couple laps ago making a trip down to pit road as well. So you have these various drivers that start to make those little few trips down to pit road, but it is noteworthy that a lot of those guys are just running by themselves, right? And of course, very different fuel dynamics. especially when you consider the fact that they're on their own and not running in about a 9-car strong pack like the one we're seeing up in front here. So 20 laps to go, make it 19 now.
And I don't know if it was just a slip up there, but the 25 looked like he wanted, Bartlett looked like he wanted to try the outside for a second there, but when he noticed nobody was going with him, he immediately got back down to the inside. And these guys, I'm pretty sure this lead pack, they're going to want to try and pit with each other. Just because, like you touched on earlier, Nolan, you never want to try and pit alone at a super speedway. There goes the 14 car. He was really strong earlier, and now he's going another lap down.
That's where it's going to get interesting here. You got a group of 3 lap cars that the field has to get around, and it was about to get tight. Rhett Tucker was side by side with Adam Newber blocking the track for the time being, but Newber allowed Tucker to get up in front of him, so they'll let the leaders through on the inside lane with no further incidents. And is it just me, or am I noticing a small gap starting to form between 3rd and 4th place? And in the Gen 6 cars, yeah. even a gap as little as that in 4th place, right? That would be enough to break you away from the leading pack. That is thankfully not the case of these next-gen cars. Their dirty air, thanks to the rear diffuser, is not nearly as prominent in these Gen 7 cars as it was all the way back in the Gen 6 cars, which means it's that much easier to try to pull yourselves back from the leading cars thanks to draft.
Especially when you've got cars behind you. Even now, though, if you're the only car back there and you get more than 6 or 7 tenths behind, you're going to lose the draft. But when you have a guy at least 2 or 3 cars behind you like that, you should still be able to keep a hold of those top 3 cars. You may not be able to suck right up to them. And as I say that, there he goes. But anyway, yeah, I love that when you're saying something and they do the exact opposite on track. That is just so much fun.
And Michael is continuing to lead the way. You got Derek Kilgore still down in 2nd, and it could be, a bit of a strategy as to how this plays out towards the end of this race, right? We're still watching for the potential of fuel numbers. Nicholas Sacco now losing touch to 2nd and 1st place up the road. This could be strategic here, though. Does he want to mount a charge with the draft to try to take the race lead away? Look at Michael moving way up to the outside line, and now Kilgore is going to follow suit and tuck back in. Oh, here's a sneak attack. Look at Stephen Llewellyn sneaking to the inside, and Nathan Rouge down to the turn number 1. That was almost calamity. That's the 2nd time that Llewellyn has forced the issue on the bottom side and had to dip 2 wheels onto that yellow line to make that pass work. And the 2nd time he's gotten lucky that the guy hasn't come down on him.
Absolutely, and man, we got a lot of lap cars playing a part here now, Nolan, all over the track. They're everywhere, it looks like, and it's going to play a part in what we see coming up here with the and just like that, boom, Justin Michael lets Kilgore go by down on the inside. I'm not sure if that was planned or if they're getting ready to pit or what's going on there, but he slid up and let Kilgore go by down on the inside and jumped back down behind him there.
And I have a feeling that was entirely strategized from Justin Michael. He has been leading this race since the restart. That is now 25 laps where he's been burning more fuel than everybody behind him, right? So he is going to be, I'd estimate, about a lap or 2 at the moment, shorter on fuel than everybody else in the field is. So he has to tuck in line here and just save a bit of gas behind Derek Kilgore. He cannot afford to be running out there in the lead anymore, especially if he wants to come on down with everybody else. He's got to bide his time now, save a bit of gas, and hope that he can still be there with the main pack, and then he's got a few guys to come down with him, especially since we're getting to those closing points of the race, right? So the one thing you can't afford now is to be coming on down with nobody else around you, because you're not going to have time to hook up with somebody to close the time back down.
No, you're not at all, not with 14 to go. And we were talking about losing the draft earlier. If you look back there, the 93 of Mesa and Thompson, the 88, they've kind of slacked off a little bit, and I don't know, if that's also a plan of theirs or what, but especially Mesa. He's got like maybe 4 or 5 car lengths between him and the 8th place car of Thompson. And he's going to be in danger of losing that draft because he doesn't snuck back up there.
Putting down Ryan Ducombe another lap down of the number 55 Chevrolet. That will now put Ducombe 4 laps down on the boards. Derek Kilgore now closing up to Nathan Mann just up the road. Now, Mann has had a bit of a rough night, right? I mean, I thought he would be out of this race. He is now 20 laps down. He was collected in a wreck a little while ago. So I thought, honestly, he was going to be out of this race earlier. That has ended up not being the case. He has been able to keep that thing together. He's been keeping it on track. It's 5 laps of the next closest guy, right? So for Nathan Mann, he's just got to hope that at the moment that he'll be able to, have that late race caution, maybe takes a couple guys fully out of the race so he can maybe pick up that one more spot.
Maybe one more if if the stars align for him, but at this point it's not looking good. I'm really getting kind of anxious to see what these guys are going to do with the fuel. I mean, can they go all the way? It's been since lap 40 that they pitted, and here we go with 13 to go. So that's I'm wondering if some of these guys think they can make it all the way.
I can tell you right now, the answer to that is a hard no. And Rhett Tucker is the confirming driver on that one. Remember how he had come down as well. 27 laps to go with everybody else. He is not safe on fuel, and he's laps down, so he hasn't even been running as long as these guys up in front of him has. That just shows that they are not going to be safe on fuel. They have to make one more pit stop before this race is over. So now it's a waiting game, right? And it's a ticking time bomb. So I'm going to say one driver to come on down to pit road, where everybody is going to want to follow suit. I think these guys are trying to maybe run the tanks out dry so they can at least put less fuel into the car to make it to the end, because, of course, lighter car equals faster, equals potentially one more spot gained out of turn 4 on the last lap.
And less time spent on pit road. If you can calculate exactly how much fuel you need to get to the end of the race at the lap time that you decide to go in, that's the best benefit for you. You're gonna spend less time on pit road. And like you said, a lighter car as well. And I'm not real sure where the 91 was thinking about going right there, but it's going to cost him a couple of spots, it looked like.
Might be thinking about fading into the back of the field. It's usually a wise move to do that rather than pull off the track in front of everybody else. He'll tuck in line here right behind Raul Meza. And still no drivers opting to make that trip down the pit road. Make it 10 laps remaining. And once again, we get set to see how this fuel strategy could play out. It's been something we've been kind of lingering around in the back of our minds throughout the entirety of this race so far. And it is all about to come to a head. Under 10 to go. This will be the money stop right at the moment. I think these guys are hoping for a caution. I really am, because a caution saves them the headache of trying to make a green flag pit stop and potentially lose all that ground you've made up.
Oh, I ain't going to lie, man. I hate making green flag pit stops. I really do. But on the other side of that token, I'm also a long-run guy. I love long runs. But, gosh, it's so nerve-wracking to try and get into the pits at Daytona and Talladega. To get woed down from 185, 190 miles an hour down to pit road speed of 55 without locking up the tires and skidding through and all that stuff, it's just, it gets my anxiety up. It really does.
Not to mention you have to then worry about everybody else around you and hoping they're going to be just as good on the brakes as you are. Because it only takes that one driver to rearrange from behind, and all of a sudden you got a black flag for speeding because of somebody else, and effectively out of this race. Now this is interesting.
There was a little contact back there between looked like 91 and maybe I couldn't tell who the other car was.
Thompson, I think it is, falling back.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm noticing. You see how big that gap has started to pick up to Derek Kilgore up the road. Justin Michael is backing the field up here. What do you think is going on here? Because I don't think I've ever seen this before.
I'm wondering if maybe he's just, getting out of the gas, going through the turns, and then using the draft to suck back up to Kilgore. I mean, that's a possibility. Maybe he's thinking. Maybe he's thinking of trying to go all the way.
I know what he's doing.
That gap out front. Yeah, go ahead.
He's trying to set him up for a run. That's what he's trying to do here. He's practicing the setup for the run. You're most likely not going to be able to complete a pass by yourself, right? Especially nobody wants to go with you around the outside. However, if you have a run, say 5 to 10 miles an hour faster, it might just work.
That makes more sense than what I said, because I don't think anybody can go all the way from here. I really don't.
So this is about to get all sorts of interesting here. Justin Michael playing some mind games, and tell you what, some drivers behind him, they want to go, but they can't really go anywhere because they have to rely on the 87 car being able to keep up with them. And even more interesting is that you can see Garrett Kilgore break into the draft, right? He's up on the top side, and Michael staying down low.
Well, he was using that lap car. He was using the air off that lap car to keep the speed up. That's what he was doing.
Oh, yeah, and it makes perfect sense, right? Move up to high, get the draft from the lap traffic, and then come down and make the corner.
Yep, absolutely. And these guys are really starting to move all over the track. I'm sure you've seen that too, Nolan. I don't know if they're just trying to get a sense of the air out there, see how it's going to feel when they go to try and pass somebody, or if they're trying to see how their car feels and get ready to, heavy brake coming to pit road. I see a lot of moving around, moving back and forth, in and out back there.
And as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, I once again want to bring up the question of fuel, right? Because Rhett Tucker mentioned he might not be safe. But that being said, he is also laps down. He is actually still out there as well. So I honestly am not quite sure what the strategy is going to be here. Are they maybe not safe? Do they think they maybe can make it? You're 5 laps to go. Why would you want to come down pit road like anywhere under 5 to go? I mean, that leaves you almost no time to even reform, let alone make an overtake.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Kind of wish I'd done some research myself a little bit here to figure out, their fuel mileage. But man, it's under 5 to go now. We're 4.5 laps to go. Look at this. We got to move on the outside. The 29. He's joined by the 20. Well, he was joined by the 24. Kind of ditched him there. I think the 24 is going to wind up hung out to dry. Yep. Out there all by himself. Oh, that's such a horrible feeling. He'll be able to duck down here behind the 91 to get back in line.
Sacco was done waiting. He was sick and tired of waiting for Justin Michael to close in the gap. So Sacco decided to do that job himself. 4 laps to go, and now Kilgore has got Sacco on his back bumper. Kilgore once again moving to the top side, trying to utilize the draft from lap cars. And Sacco sort of went with him, but not so much. Look out for Jose Luis Rivera. Went down to the low side to give some of the draft to Kilgore. Going to move back up to the outside lane now. It's now a 2-car breakaway for the race lead. Justin Michael being bump drafted, though, by Jake Royal behind them. They're going to have a huge head of steam. 5 miles an hour faster, entering turn 3. Michael could be getting ready to pounce. Coming to 3 to go.
At 3 to go, he's probably looking at like either I'm going to make it or I'm not. It's time to go. And that looks like what he's decided here because they have closed that gap
heads up
real fast.
Thompson coming to the pit road from 8th.
Oh, boy. Well, there's one down.
Oh, boy. So 3 laps to go and a car from your leading pack coming into pit road. They are not safe. This is, of all things, a fuel mileage race at Daytona. I never thought I would see anything like this for a season opener. But I tell you what, if there's one kind of finish I like more than a photo finish, it's a fuel mileage finish. And we're set for a banger here today. 3 wide behind them. Look out for Roge up the middle. It'll be coming to 2 to go with Stefan Llewellyn on the outside line. Victor Bartlett on the bottom. Nicholas Sacco leads. Kilgore clicks the air, he's coming to pit road from 2nd place.
Yes. Oh, my, that's so unfortunate right there. Man, I'm lost. I'm at a loss for words here, bud.
Oh, boy.
We got guys that are staying out and just going to go for it and see what happens, it looks like. Man, that gives Sacco almost a full second, well, no, a half a second lead on the guys behind him.
No help,
I'm wondering if he thinks he'll be able to get across the line on fumes.
And here comes Jake Ruel. He's going to have a push. Along with that, Michael and Bartlett are both there. They want to go for the race lead. There's the block. Ruel trying to make the move around the outside line. Almost hooks Sacco. He does hook Sacco onto the apron of turn 3. Somehow Sacco wrestles that car underneath them. And it will be 1 lap to go for the Surf Pro 200. The CRN 1 to go is waving. 2.5 miles left in this 80-lap, 200-mile race. And Sacco's got to do everything to conserve that extra fuel, those last precious couple of drops, and keep Ruel behind him.
Who's going to make it, folks? Who's got the gas to do it? Who doesn't? Rolling the 9 cars, got the draft working for him behind Sacco. Behind him, he's got Justin Michael and Bartlett. And folks, this is it. It's coming down to the last lap. Oh, we got guys. They're using lap cars 3 wide. Oh my God!
They're
They made contact. We got car flipping. Holy cow!
And here comes Victor Bartlett. The race still isn't over. Jake Rowell still has got some trouble up the road. Bartlett's trying to close with the draft. Is it going to be enough? He is going to run out of road. And Jake Rowell is going to win the Surf Pro 200 and the season opener from the North American Sim Racing Association Cup Series at Daytona.
That was not disappointing at all. That was an unbelievable finish. We had contact, we had a block, we had more contact. Somebody probably ran out of fuel, it looked like, and then somebody went flying down the backstretch. What else can you ask for?
Goodness gracious, that's about as exciting of a finish as you could possibly ask for. Nicholas Sacco was in the catbird seat, tried to make the block. Rowell faked down low, and unfortunately Rowell had to push up into Sacco to avoid running over the number 7 car of Derek Kilgore, lap car on the bottom side, just coming out of pit road. And Sacco got turned into the wall by Michael, and it was Rose that ended up kicking Sacco up and over. At the end of the day, Sacco will come home to finish in 6th place. So Jake Rowell is going to burn it down in the Tri-Oval at the World Center of Racing after a wild finish at Daytona International Speedway.
Wow.
And now your unofficial race results presented by Live Sim Racing TV. Jake Rowell, your race winner, but only just 97,000 separate himself from Victor Bartlett, with Justin Michael in 3rd. Stefan Luallen is 4th, with Nathan Roge in 5th. Nicholas Sacco is 6th. Raul Meza is in 7th. Troy Thompson is 8th, along with the last car in the lead lap. And it is Blake Lothian and Jose Luis Rivera to round out your top 10, John.
11th place goes to Derek Kilgore in that 7 car. He had to pit from the lead and take fuel. Rhett Tucker in 12th. Adam Newbert, 13th. Max Stick in the 05, 14th. Chris Stevens, 15th. Ryan Ducombe, 16th. Andrew McGronigal, 17th. Not a good day for a fellow Scottishman right there. He had a bad day, he did. Jeremy Crandall in 18th. Eric Zimmerman, 19th. And right now, your top 20 is Nathan Mann in the 21 car.
And of course, 21st place will be Corey Saucier, finishing this race 54 laps down among some of the guys that DNF'd. Judd Danielson and David Duke will be with him. Hunter Parsons did not make the starting call, and he did not compete in this race. So what an absolutely unbelievable finish. We'll take a quick commercial break here, but don't go away. We've got more coming up for you from Daytona International Speedway in just a few moments. Well, we are back at Daytona International Speedway, and what an absolutely phenomenal run that we had here at Daytona International Speedway. And at the end of the day, Jake Rowell takes the win, 17th to 1st, in a daring last lap overtake on a lap car that sent one car up and over at the end of it. And Jake Rowell joins us up here now in the commentary box. And what a wild finish for you, Jake. When you see the lap car on the bottom side with nowhere for you to go, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just reminded me to the days watching Too Fast, Too Furious with the barrel race, Ron O'Connor and the guys they were racing. It was just waited for that last second, made my move to the right, 29 left a hole, and coming to the white, you know, just, I guess, bigger nerves of steel than he had. You know, if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have opened up the door and made our way through it. Whatever happened with them happened. It looked like it was some net code or whatever, and then it was just myself and the 25 of Victor running to the line. But in the next gen car, you got to have enough time and enough space, and I knew I was good to the end after I got to the lead.
You, of course, started this race 17th place. That is the furthest up of the cars that did not qualify. Was that always your intention to just kind of ride this race around to the back and see what happened?
Yeah, I mean, with no fast repairs or anything like that, it's just kind of survival of the fittest. So me and my couple of teammates, Nathan Mon and Ryan Ducon, that were in this race, we just didn't even qualify, just hung out in the back, tried to avoid the wrecks. Those two actually got caught up in one of the later wrecks. So it was just kind of, you know, biding time, and then that last green flag stint, it was just all about trying to save fuel because I knew it was going to be really, really close.
And of course, pit strategies was always something we were going to be thinking about. And as we got closer to the end of this race, it became more of a question about the fuel strategy. And a few guys, even from your leader pack, did have to come down pit road. How close were you to running out of fuel at the last second?
Yeah, so I actually, like I said, you know, I knew it was going to be really, really close on fuel. That was something I was watching through the first two stages, you know, how much fuel we were burning and how hard I was running. So once we had, you know, the last 50 laps to the end or I guess it was like 40 something from one of the cautions, I knew it was like really, really close. So honestly, from that green flag with about like 42 to go, I was just saving, riding, and, you know, I think I was like 9th or 8th place from then, and then I was just moving up slowly but surely, but I was saving every ounce of fuel. I mean, I never went full throttle until we were coming to the white flag, and I still had four extra laps of fuel, so I was A-OK on Sunoco race fuel.
And well, it was an intense race for you, but you kicked this season off on the high end. No doubt get set to try to see if you can maintain a points lead over the next few races as well. Before we let you go, though, anybody you'd like to shout out for that adrenaline shock number 9?
Yeah, I got to thank my teammates Ryan Ducom in the 55, as well as Nathan Mon in the 21. We got a couple other guys on Rowell Motorsports that are running, weren't able to make it today, unfortunately, as well as spotter Jovi Soggyped. He was helping out Ryan, and then when he got wrecked, he was just helping me through everything. And then obviously my one of my sponsors, Off Apex Designs, creates fabulous paint schemes, so always got to shout him out, as well as you guys on the broadcast. I appreciate it.
And well, thank you then for taking the time to join us here tonight. Before we let you go, though, Jake, anybody I just asked you this question, so I'm all over the place tonight. But thank you for joining us tonight, Jake, and best of luck next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
That was Jake Rowell bringing it home in an absolutely unbelievable finish here tonight from Daytona. And well, on the other side of the finish, finishing just in behind it was one Victor Bartlett, and I'll pass this one down to you, John.
I'm down here with second place runner Victor Bartlett, and I tell you what, Victor, that was an exciting finish, man. Talk to me about your second place run and what your view of that last lap looked like.
Yeah, that last lap, that was very intense. I was scared. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think I was going to make it through that. It seemed like the hole was closing up quicker than I could get through there, but I squeezed through there. It was a great run for this Folgers car. After listening to this interview, I feel like I need to go out there and get me a spotter or two. I mean, I'm flying by the seat doing it by myself, but I think it was a great run for myself, and first time actually racing these cars. So.
Yeah, you mentioned your first time in the car. What do you think about this next gen car? Give me your impression on that.
Yeah, I think it has some opportunities. I think some work needs to be put into it. I don't really care for the draft package that much. It seems like you can't really make a run by yourself. Not that you ever really could in the past, but at least you can pull up beside a car and slow them down and then take the spot from them. But in these cars, it doesn't seem like you can do that. You pretty much got to wait for a guy to make a mistake and make a hole and force yourself in there to make some spots here.
Yeah, I've gotten that impression from a few guys. Well, look, man, you had a great run tonight. You finished second place with a damaged race car from getting caught up in an earlier accident. Do you have anybody you want to give a shout out to, or thanks for your run tonight?
No, I want to thank this entire league. It's been fun thus far. So thank you very much to everybody. Let me join, and I look forward to next week.
And there you have, folks. It's your second place driver, Victor. How do you say your last name?
Bartlett.
Bartlett. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I lost my sheet here, so all I can see is Victor in TeamSpeak. Thanks, Vic. Appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you.
And I believe that's your second place driver right there. We found Justin Michael, who has finished scraping the 29 off of his windshield from that last lap incident. Nolan, did you find him?
I indeed have. So, Justin Michael, you join us up here now, and what an absolutely insane finish for you. You're running a good portion of this race up in front of the closing stages, but that last lap, you got a face full of the number 29 machine. Walk us through what it looked like in front of your windshield throughout that last lap.
Yeah, we definitely got a face full of it, and then you know, we had to push the car back home after the race because we ran out of gas there coming to the start finish line. But at least we got third after all the shenanigans that happened there on the backstretch. So we'll take that after. If I wouldn't have gave up the lead there early, we wouldn't have made it at all. We would have had to pit. So I wish I would have gave it up about 5 laps earlier. Probably would have had something for the leaders. Then we'd have had just enough fuel left. But it is what it is.
And of course, we just heard Victor's thoughts on this as well, but these next-gen cars, obviously, I believe a new thing in place for this 2022 season for NASRA as well. So what's your take on it so far? So far, seems to be racing similar to the Gen 6 on the super speedways, but we haven't seen what it's going to be like at other tracks yet.
I've raced them at a few other tracks, and I think I know he said they have some opportunity to get better. I think that's too light of a word to use. I don't even know what to tell you to make these things better because they're just not good. So I know some changes will probably happen in February, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, they definitely need a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I think that is a sentiment that's shared by a lot of people on the servers at the moment, but we do know that the changes are going to be coming, and hopefully it will be finding those improvements as the season goes along. Do you have any goals where you want to end up at the moment with a podium finish in the first race?
I mean, we definitely will go for the championship in the end, and I know kind of Daytona's, and if I think we're racing Talladega too at some point. They're just finishing, you know, at that point, staying out of trouble. It's so hard to pass here. You got to qualify up front, and usually you can stay good and stay up there. But I know we saw early in the race the leaders kind of wrecked each other. It kind of benefited us. We picked up 4 or 5 spots here going to the first stage, so got some decent points out of that, luckily.
Luckily, indeed. And well, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you up here, Justin, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you even more as the season goes along. Before I let you go, though, anybody you'd like to shout out for your number 87 Beretta Camry?
Yeah, just everybody out there watching. Hopefully it was a good race, and just thanks Scott over there at Patent Paints for painting this car for me, and he always does a good job, and definitely would recommend going over and checking him out.
And thank you, Justin, for taking the time to join us here tonight. Congrats on a 3rd place finish, and well, best of luck in 1 week's time.
Thanks, guys.
That was Justin Michael bringing it home in 3rd place on the night. And, well, John, that will do it for all of the interviews on the night. But what an intense season opener, right? You had the fuel strategy. Guys running out of fuel with 2 laps to go, with 1 lap to go. A massive last lap crash that took out a guy trying to go for a race leader who went flying into the catch fencing. It's about everything you can possibly want out of a finish at Daytona.
I'll tell you, we got the entire super speedway experience in a lap and a half. I applaud those guys. That's a lot of hard work to do, but yeah, the fuel mileage question, the drafting question, lap cars playing a part of this. And I'm not saying the lap car was at fault with that incident. He did what they've always been told to do. He held his line. He stayed where he was. That was just a result of somebody trying to use him for a pick, and unfortunately it didn't work out too well. But it was a great race, in my thought.
Oh, I think to say it was a good race was a little bit of an understatement, right? I mean, this was still an absolutely phenomenal race throughout the entire course of the night. I mean, this was non-stop action from start to finish, and it is worth noting that it is, of course, very much not over. It's a very different track coming up in 1 week's time, where we swing things over to Dover International Raceway. What's your thoughts coming into the 1 mile oval?
I have just seen some folks racing in Dover in this car, and buddy, buckle in because it's going to be a wild ride. It will not disappoint, I promise you. It will not disappoint.
And I would expect nothing less for a race to not disappoint than, of course, a race over at the Boston Mile, especially in these new next-gen cars. And we are definitely looking forward to see what we'll be having for us in 1 week's time at Dover. For now, though, from Daytona, that is about all the time we're going to have for one night. I want to thank everybody for joining us here for more racing action from the North American Sim Racing Association. My name is Bill Rambo with John Mustin Jr. in the broadcast booth, and once again doing an absolutely phenomenal job behind the cameras of tonight's race. So thank you for joining us for the World Center Racing. We'll see you next week in the Boston Mile.